Hi everyone, and welcome to another Gummy Phone project, A Tale of Two Scala ad Caelum. In this video, we will explore why there are two different versions of Scala ad Caelum. But first, there are a few items that should be considered. As always, and going back to the Eden theory, the outcome of Union Cross Dark Road must reveal the creation of Radiant Garden. I'm not going to really focus on talking about the data Daybreak Town because it has been pretty much sealed off at this point, and rather we're going to talk about what's going on in the outside world. A question that we can surely keep in mind is how the Master Defender and the no-name Keyblade made it to the same place in Scala ad Caelum. Each are inevitably passed to the hands of Ericus and Xehanort respectively. Unreality is a plot point that may serve the future of Kingdom Hearts, and it might be alluded to in Dark Road, but I don't think it has to do with either Scala ad Caelum here. I believe unreality is more of a concept that is beyond the fourth wall, that refers to our reality or meta-reality. This concept can't be depicted by using a fictional setting, and therefore requires real places like Shibuya and Shinjuku to be depicted. Uh, for our reality, both versions of Scala ad Caelum are fictional. Lastly, I know it's a horse that's been beaten to death, but it's worth paying attention to the mythos of Fabula Nova Crystallis. The name basically means Story of the New World or Story of the New Crystal, and the games that include this are, of course, Final Fantasy XIII and its sequels, Final Fantasy Type 0, Agito, and Final Fantasy Versus 13, which as we know became Final Fantasy 15. If you haven't been entirely convinced on any connection to Fabula Nova Crystallis, I would highly recommend taking a look at these two images, as they definitely sold the idea for me. But without further ado, let's jump right into the rest. We start on the night of the Keyblade War. Friend pitted against friend, as no union could afford to relinquish any of their hoarded lucks. It was a bloodbath. As wielders fell, their hearts gathered toward none other than Kingdom Hearts. Aggregation of all hearts, Kingdom Hearts is the gateway to the afterlife, or unseen realm, much like Etro's Gate. Those who die in glorious battle are brought to Valhalla, where they will prepare for Ragnarok. These warriors are known as Einherjar. I believe the hearts of those who perished in the Union Cross Keyblade War ascended beyond the gate, to be reborn in Scala ad Caelum. Scala ad Caelum is much like Valhalla or Asgard of Norse mythology. Enter terrestrial Scala ad Caelum. The people of terrestrial Scala ad Caelum are the inheritors of the Keyblade's secret via Ephemer. The Master Defender and the Book of Prophecies must be here. It is noted that this is a town rather than a world. From what can be understood, worlds have not broken up. The statue of Ephemer implies the town exists in a direct future after Daybreak Town was obliterated. For those who watched Secret of the Black Box, I have claimed that Brain arrived here via portal by means of opening the box. The Victorian Gothic design of this world resembles Luxurion, the capital of light from Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII. With the release of Chaos, the world of Grand Pulse was warped into Nova Chrysalis. Nova Chrysalis existed 13 days before the end of the world. If the comparison is fair, the unfortunate reality is that Brain has escaped the end of Daybreak Town only to find himself in a world on the brink of destruction. A key difference, of course, is that childbirth is still possible in this world, whereas children could not be born to the world of Nova Chrysalis, nor could people die of old age. Both of these ideas were explicitly depicted by baby Xehanort and the cloaked man who took him away. So, about this robed man. How does he move from Scala ad Caelum to the Destiny Islands? Without a black coat, the Dark Corridor is less likely, as the robed man and baby Xehanort would not be safe from the darkness. Gummy ship travel does not exist, as gummy travel only became prevalent after the split of worlds. Magic, Keyblade glider, or boat are the only feasible options to reach the island. With so little options to travel here, I'm going to go ahead and assume the Destiny Islands exist on the same plane as terrestrial Scala at Caelum. Here's where it gets interesting then. This cloaked man has taken Xehanort to the Destiny Islands with the specific intention of creating paradoxes. He has read the Book of Prophecies and devised a plan to defy it. Someone who reads the book cannot themselves defy the prophecy, so he chose a proxy. At this point, the Book of Prophecies is in possession of Master Ephemer, and anyone who chose to share it with. This man can only be the Master of Masters, Master Ephemer, or any unknown character Ephemer chose to share that book with. Here's the claim. Destiny Islands becomes an independent world while Xehanort grows up there, unaware of outside forces. His home, Scala ad Caelum, will change at a rapid pace while he grows from a baby to his teenage years. It is here the first paradox is created and the impossible is established. A child in isolation on a remote island was visited by his future self, who created a dark corridor that allowed him to escape the island. From this moment on, many more paradoxes will spring forth as Xehanort's every move defies the correct timeline and world order, eventually culminating in the victory of light over darkness. Xehanort's Report 4. And when Kingdom Hearts is complete, it is said the one who opens its door will bring about the creation of the next world. Such a feat is above any human. Or to put it a different way, whoever opens that door will be reborn as something far greater than human. Light and darkness are two sides of the same coin. Without darkness, there is no light. The Keyblade wielders' great war over Kingdom Hearts was fought by defenders of the light, servants of the darkness, those who sought to reconcile the two, and those motivated by nothing more than lust for power. A whole spectrum of thought was swept into the conflict, and the worlds that did not go to war found the war brought to them. In the end, the whole world was cast into darkness. That was how the ancient Keyblade War drew to a close. To this day, no one has ever managed to open the door to Kingdom Hearts. Some time later, the little light that remained in the hearts of the few gave rise to the world we know today, one made of many worlds behind just as many walls, so that the Keyblade War would not be repeated. Now there's an interesting sentiment. It's strange. Xehanort mentions 4 factions of differing ideology, yet the Keyblade War that we know according to Kingdom Hearts Union Cross was fought between 5 unions of the same ideology. And so, with this understanding, a Keyblade War broke out during the time of terrestrial Scala at Caelum. This version of the Keyblade War should aptly be named Ragnarok. Enter Celestial Scala ad Caelum. This world strongly resembles Valhalla from Final Fantasy XIII-2. Its vacant landmasses, reminiscent of the shadows of Valhalla, scattered throughout the Historia Crux, or timeline for those who don't know what that means. Unlike terrestrial Scala ad Caelum, the celestial version doesn't have any precise indication that Ephemer founded the world. There is a flipbook mural that depicts the transition of Daybreak Town directly into celestial Scala ad Caelum, yet this mural doesn't seem to account for terrestrial Scala ad Caelum unless the peaking landscape took time to build up. They must be connected though. If not in name, then the legacy of the Master Defender and the no-name Keyblades. As described by Master Xehanort, this world is a seat of power for all Keyblade wielders, and the nexus from which all worlds spring. Worlds have broken up and made up the stars in the night sky. Time is moving differently in all of them. If Ericus is related to Brain or Ephemer, an event that breaks up the world would need happen during Brain's time in Scala ad Caelum. This event, of course, as I said before, would be aptly named Ragnarok. The need to separate the one world into individual worlds comes from an understanding that the Keyblade will always pose a threat by inviting the darkness. By splitting up the worlds into ones without knowledge of the Keyblade, the safety of those worlds is almost ensured. Here we can visualize relativity among the worlds, each playing out at varying speeds. I've only elected to use Disney worlds that appear in the Union Cross Book of Prophecies, and a handful of important plot-relevant worlds. The Disney worlds travel fastest and tend to exhaust their narrative by the time the movie ends. The plot-relevant worlds tend to travel slowest since they carry the overall Kingdom Hearts narrative. Radiant Garden became the new capital of light, as it would be assumed the world would be safe from the knowledge of the Keyblade. In these times, the secret of the Keyblade was kept in the Land of Departure by Ericus. After the Keyblade came to Radiant Garden by Xehanort, Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, events transpired that led to the collapse of the world into Hollow Bastion. A Keyblade War, as the name suggests, is caused by the mere existence of the Keyblade, and darkness is drawn to it like a moth to a flame.
They'll come at you out of nowhere.
Who are you?
And they'll keep on coming at you, as long as you continue to wield the Keyblade.
The Keyblade War is not a singular event as seen in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. It is a recurring battle that exists so long as the Keyblade exists. We can infer that the terrestrial Scala ad Caelum faced a Keyblade War. The Keyblade War that occurs in terrestrial Scala ad Caelum would result in the splitting of worlds, creating the celestial Scala ad Caelum and the many worlds among the sea of stars. Any world in which the Keyblade would come to would have its balance disrupted, attacked by the Heartless, and doomed to destruction. Even the Land of Departure was no exception to this, as the fight between Master Xehanort and Ericus' pupils was also a Keyblade War. Of the results of the split worlds, one world born was Radiant Garden, to which I believe that some familiar hearts of those who perished in Ragnarok will be reborn to Radiant Garden and rebuild the lost world. Worlds such as the Mysterious Tower or the Land of Departure suggest that a Keyblade Master can make a world, or it is the case that the Land of Departure is a new version of the Celestial Scala ad Caelum, like the Castle Oblivion trick. This is suggested when Terra calls Riku to the Land of Departure, just to see if he can make it there, as like Xehanort's arrival in Scala ad Caelum, only strong hearts may reach that world, to sort out potential Keyblade wielders, of course. Xehanort's existence has permeated several paradoxes in the timeline. We have discussed how he was able to leave isolation by his own future self, Yet there is more. The emblem heartless that appear in Dark Road are a consequence of paradox. The extraction of the Nidus from Ventus is a consequence of paradox. The despair of the Wayfinder trio is a consequence of paradox. The existence of Roxas, Namine, and Xion are a consequence of paradox. Kairi having ever met Sora is a consequence of paradox. You should get the idea now. When you change the future, you change the past. The effects ripple outward up and down the timeline. Without these paradoxes, there was never hope for light to win against darkness. Without Kairi and Sora's star-crossed love, there was never hope to begin with. As always, smash that thumbs up button, leave a comment, and tell me what you think. I also want to know what kind of content you would like me to cover. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications. You can also follow me on Twitter at tgummyphone. I'm always shooting off ideas about my latest Kingdom Hearts thoughts. And of course, happy 20th anniversary to all Kingdom Hearts fans new and old. We'll see what Dark Road has to offer, and hopefully theorycraft around a brand new chapter in the Kingdom Hearts saga. Until next time, friends.